Yeah, Di, as a guitar player, you've had one of the most illustrious careers here in Australia.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a trip, actually. It's been a bit of a trip, yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little about your days with Billy Thorpe when you were with Thorpe?
Yeah, sure. Thorpe, that was a great experience for me. It taught me a lot as well. I started with Bill in about '98, and I'd just gone through a whole bunch of different bands. I had an original band in the '80s called Destraza, and I'd played with a few different country people. I'd played with a few different concept-y sort of bands, and so as a guitar player, I was a bit of an all-rounder. And the way I stumbled into the gig was through Randall Waller, who was a friend of mine. Rand went off to play. He played with Thorpe when Thorpe first came back to Australia, and then he left and joined Shania Twain's band. So he sort of gave me the in with that, and I knew the drummer, DeMarco, through other dealings. And yeah, so I sort of went. I actually had to audition, which was hilarious. It was really funny because I walked in and Billy Thorpe wasn't a big man physically, a big guy, but he was only a short guy. So there was this little guy, and the first thing I thought was, he looks like James Cagney. And often used to get the comparison. People used to compare the Billy Thorpe band to Motorhead, fronted by James Cagney, you know. And I've walked in. He's walked up and he's gone, "Hi, how are you? I'm Billy." So I'm Di. How do you do? And he said, he looked at me and said, "Well, you know, because I'm all attitude and tattoos." And he said, "Well, you look the part." So then we played and played a couple of songs. And he came up and went, "Yeah, well, you play like you look. Welcome to the band." So I was like, shit, you know. So that was, yeah. So that's how I sort of got into the band.
Yeah. What was it like playing with him?
Fantastic. It was fantastic. Very loud, but very controlled. The guy was actually quite an underrated guitar player. A lot of people didn't realise how good Billy Thorpe could play the guitar, especially acoustic. Especially an acoustic guitar. Up until his death, he was working on an album called Tangiers, which is actually in the can and probably will be released. And it was all altered tunings, Eastern tunings. I mean, Billy and I used to take 10 guitars each on the road when we toured with Deep Purple, and it was quite hilarious. And we toured with Deep Purple. Between Bill and I, we had more guitars than Steve Morse, because a lot of them were in Eastern tunings, capo for special slide things that we used to do. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like you were saying earlier about It's Almost Summer, as in E-tuning, and he taught you how to play all those songs.
Yeah, he taught me how to play. Most people I know think I'm crazy, which is still a pinnacle of my life. Yeah, I love that he taught me how to play it.
Yeah, that probably the best teacher, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And the Long Way to the Top thing, Billy got me into that as well, and I played with everyone through that. I was just like the house guitar player, and I was taught how to play Someday I'll Have Money by Mike Rudd, and I was taught how to play The Real Thing by Russell Morris, which was really cool. Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, it's astonishing. Well, moving on to the Tats, that's a whole different ballgame, huh?
Yeah. Tats is a different animal, but it's something I've wanted to do since I was 15, and I eventually just, by the universe and its wisdom, sort of stumbled into the gig, or the gig stumbled into me. It was quite funny. Again, to thank Paul DeMarco to a degree for that too, because he was Thorpe's drummer and Tats drummer. A lot of people don't realise that Paul DeMarco is actually the longest serving member of Rose Tattoo, except for Angry Anderson. Paul's been in there for like 16 years. But yeah, I came into Tats in about 2004, primarily because Pete got quite sick then through prostate cancer. And with his treatment, he couldn't fly. So Tattoo worked in Europe quite a bit, so he just couldn't handle the flight to Frankfurt. It was like 22 hours. So I do all the international stuff, and Pete could still do the local work. But then come 2005, after he died, and yeah, I became a full-time member.
Both of those bands are very different in, I suppose, their songwriting approach, but big on energy, huh?
Big time. It's all about performance. It's all about the performance with both bands. Billy Thorpe was consummate performer. And same with Angry. It's all about theatre. Yeah, it really is. It really is all about the theatre and about the performance. Yeah.
And you get to play a lot of slide with the Tats.
With Tats, primarily, that's what I do. I mean, I've stepped into Pete Wells' shoes. In Tattoo, everything's an open E-tuning. And there were some tricks that Pete taught me that were quite funny as well. I remember the first rehearsals, that I did with Tattoo, Pete came to the rehearsals, and that was kind of daunting because it was Pete Wells, and I remember sitting there and playing Bad Boy, and Pete came up and he said, "Oh," because Pete always, you knew Pete had this wonderful Keith Richards-ness about him, you know. It was quite a swagger that he had about him, and he's come up and he's gone, "Oh," he says, see your guitar's really perfectly in tune like that." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Don't do that." And I've gone, "Why not?" He says, "No." He says, "Get the G string," he says, "and just flatten it and put it a little bit out of tune." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because it pisses them right off." You know? He says, "It just creates a bit of tension, you know." And it's true. I sort of you'd hear Pete's technique and you'd hear him solo, and there was quite this frenetic thing that he had going on, and a lot of it was because he'd put the guitar slightly out of tune. Yeah, and that was Pete.
Yeah. Now, you got a line of DVDs coming out. Could you tell us about those?
Yeah, I've just done a series of DVDs teaching classic Aussie rock songs. Primarily, they picked me because I've played with all these people. Exactly what we're talking about. Which will be available, I think, in August as a download and also as a hard copy through retails. And I'll be doing a series of workshops while we're on the road. Tats are on the road for 6 weeks in Europe. We come back in mid-July, so then we'll be touring locally, and I'll probably do some workshops to demonstrate those. But primarily what I've done is taken 5 Aussie rock songs and just broken them down into their basic components. So it's an easy way to learn how to play a song. I mean, you know, you're a guitar teacher yourself, so you know, I teach myself, so that's the best way to do it. I just took it on as giving a lesson. Basically, it's how I would teach one-on-one to a student.
Great. What are the tunes?
The tunes are, most people I know think I'm crazy, Bad Boy for Love, Powderfingers, My Happiness, Jets, Are You Gonna Be My Girl, and Eagle Rock.
Wow.
Which
Did
are classic
Ross
Aussie.
Wilson and the other boys teach you that one?
No, unfortunately, because I played it with Ross, but I would have loved to have had a one-on-one lesson with Ross Hannaford to learn how to play that.
Yeah. Well, he came up with the riff, I believe.
He did. It's a classic thing, so yeah, he came up with it.
Yeah. And I believe you're not only going to talk about how to play the notes, but how to get the actual sound.
Yeah. Well, Boss came on board as well because they've got a fantastic range of products, and part of their product range now is they have a couple of pedals that emulate Fender amps. They've got a 59 Bassman pedal, which is amazing, and they've got a deluxe reverb pedal, and they have Cosm technology, so you can get that old school valve sound even if you haven't got an old school valve amp. So yeah, a lot of it is how you get the sounds. Yeah.
When you were playing with these bands, did they have some specification as to how they want you to sound?
Not really. Billy was fantastic. Billy was just sort of like Die, You Just Be Die, yeah. So which was fantastic, which was really good. With Tats, it's a no-brainer really. It's just plug in and turn up really loud. so that's sort of how I sort of play anyway. Via the school of Billy Thorpe, you know, that was pretty cool. So I slotted into that pretty well. But with Longway and other people I play, yeah, they'll have a say sometimes. Yeah. They'll have a say.
Yeah, that Long Way to the Top was a great series. You must have had a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, that was a trip. That was a real trip. Met some great people, had some great laughs, and great experiences and great work afterwards. Because every now and then they still put the Long Way band back together one of those days. Because it was a huge tour. There was 120 people on the road, so it was a big tour. So there was a lot of artists, and it rekindled a lot of careers. And they all needed a guitar player at some point. So that I ended up playing with Marsha again. So and then I ended up playing with Doug Parkinson. Then ended up playing with Glenn Shorrock and all those other people. That's
the story in Australia, and you've gotten to do all that. Most guitar players would be very enviable of what you've done.